Well, g'day, legends. I hope everyone is doing well. Just waiting to see if a few people jump across. It's been a slow start to the stream so far. There we go. SBL Wheeler. Lovely to have you in here. I hope that you are doing well. Did the stream just start? Yes, it did. Only 40 seconds ago. It was a bit of a very slow start. I wasn't sure if my software was actually working correctly. It was that slow. But we have a couple of people, a couple of legends who have jumped across into the chat. I hope that you are doing really well. Of course, we do have a lot to catch up on today. Overnight, my time, there has been more comments made, more information released. So, of course, there's a lot that we have to catch up with. I hope you guys are having a fantastic day. I've got my extra large coffee with me. I went for a walk, got some sunlight. Remember, it's very easy at the moment to just get sucked into your phone. Get some sunlight, do some exercise, get off your phone. So we are going to be talking about, I'm just making a list, stocks, AD, air defense, in Asia Pacific region, moving reportedly in the direction of the Middle East due to stocks running low in some of the Gulf states. As we know, a lot of these states will not be stockpiling massive amounts of air defense if they don't know that a war is coming. So this is one of the major considerations at the moment that can lead to huge leverage of then these very wealthy and highly powerful states against the US. Could be countries like Saudi, UAE, Bahrain, etc. If they start getting smashed much and much harder, well, we could see a lot more leverage to start ending this war. And it's going to be a big ask. I don't doubt the US can continue striking Iran as they are for a month. I don't doubt that. What I do have some concern over is if Iran is able to continue striking the surrounding states and having further success with the strikes because of their air defenses will start running low or are already dangerously low, that these states are going to either step into the war, and that, of course, will extend the war. It will increase the cost of the war, and also risk, of course, overflow of the war, or huge pressure on the US to finish operations early. Now, there's been some very interesting comments from, of course, Secretary of State, Mr. Marco Rubio, who I believe that it's highly likely that Rubio will actually be the Republican candidate for when Mr. Trump leaves office. I think that is likely. What I want to look at is I do want to look at some of the comments that Rubio has made, because this is very interesting. As well, of course, legends, we're going to be going over some of the strikes, some of the reporting as well from like a Mr. AMK Map, Aussie Defender, etc. Look at movements, of course. We will look at protests. We will look at the US embassy has been struck apparently twice in my memory's failed me. Maybe it's Kuwait. There's too many countries that are being hit currently, and it does appear that there may be calls for strikes in Egypt as well. We need to look at a Mr. Tucker Carlson, who has been vehemently outspoken against Israel, but then also we do know has increased his amount of relations in Qatar, that he is saying, potentially through sources, that Qatar has arrested Mossad agents who are planning on carrying out false flag events. That is what Tucker is saying. So, legends, a lot to go over. There is 600 legends in the chat. The best thing to help me at the moment is hit like on the video, get going in the chat, push us up the algorithm, and then we will officially get actually into the news reporting of the day. You'll have to excuse me in about 40 minutes. I do need to go and hang out my washing because it is currently in the washing machine. So we have Mr. AMK strikes from Beirut that you are looking at on screen here. But this is more interesting. So I want to look at some of the comments that Fox News has filmed, or at least owns the rights to, of course, Mr. Marco Rubio, the president of Venezuela, soon to be Ayatollah Rubio, the supreme leader of Iran. Of course, we're just talking about memes on that. But Rubio has made some comments regarding the situation and US attacks as well. Just wait, can you guys hear that? Is that coming through fine? Can you hear the lady asking the questions in the back? Or else I need to turn up another slider. I think you should be able to. Audio is low, very low. Right, what I might be able to do is...
Absolutely was an imminent threat, and the imminent threat was that we knew that if Iran was attacked, and we believe...
Apologies, I think I've got this sorted out. Let's listen to this. Quiet but audible. Right.
Did you tell lawmakers that there was an imminent... There absolutely was an imminent threat, and the imminent threat was that we knew that if Iran was attacked, and we believed they would be attacked, that they would immediately come after us. And we were not going to sit there and absorb a blow before we responded, because the Department of War assessed that if we did that, if we waited for them to hit us first after they were attacked, and by someone else, Israel attacked them, they hit us first, and we waited for them to hit us, we would suffer more casualties and more deaths. We went proactively in a defensive way to prevent them from inflicting higher damage. Had we not done so, there would have been hearings on Capitol Hill about how we knew that this was going to happen, and we didn't act preemptively to prevent more casualties and more loss of life.
So Rubio, as per, you can see the writing on this slide here, there was an imminent threat. We knew that if Iran was attacked, so if we knew that if Iran was attacked first, there would be a response in here, and that we were not willing to absorb that blow. So, of course, this argument could absolutely be made by anyone, as Mr. Extreme Sergio points out. And this is where we have actually been reporting, you and I, in the past month, that a preemptive attack from Iran would have made complete strategic sense. And as I always have to say, because the low IQ people always come after me for comments like this, I am not by any means suggesting that I support an Iranian preemptive attack. But if you're talking a military strategy, it's exactly like Rubio is saying, that a preemptive strike, if you are a state like Iran, this is, say, 3 days ago, before the Americans and Israelis attacked, if they launched a preemptive attack, because their main power sits with standoff offensive weapons. And we said that that is likely their best bet, because with this, now they are absorbing the blow. So you can change this exact same military thinking, which makes sense. It is rational. Upon then you can fill in either state, you can look at it as X or Y axes and interchangeable. So I think that is an important piece that we need to look at. That we knew that if Iran was attacked just by Israel, because Israel cannot deliver the same amount of power on target that the US can, that immediately Iran wouldn't just go after Israel, that they would go after multiple different states and US assets in the region, and that Rubio is saying we were not willing to absorb that. As I said, that's why a preemptive attack, because what they are saying is Israel and the US, they are saying that we acted in defensive preemptive strikes. So we were acting in defense because strikes, we're preempting a strike, so we're acting in defense. And as I said in the lead up, this is the case that Iran could have made for preemptive strikes as well. That said, I still think there is a case at which the Americans actually wanted the Iranians to strike first. Why? Because it would have given a far easier casus belli justification to move towards kinetic strikes, acts, and of course the potential for an escalating process of war. The president of ours made a wide decision. We knew that it was going to be an Israeli action. We knew that would precipitate an attack against American forces. We knew that if we didn't preemptively go after Iran before they launched those attacks, we would suffer higher casualties. Again, so the US isn't willing, though, if you're saying this, the US isn't willing, Mr. Rubio, to say, hey, BB, don't launch an attack. So I'm just looking on my phone at the moment, just because I can update on the telegrams there. If you hear a beeping sound, please let me know. If I don't take the sheets out of the washing machine, my girlfriend will become a B-2 bomber and I will become the Ayatollah and I will be killed tonight. Once she's home from work, because she actually has a real job, unlike me. Right. Let's go. This is Mr. Monitor X. Iraqi militia claims to target a hotel housing military personnel in Erbil. So this is one of the interesting parts too, is you're starting to see militias getting involved in different areas as well. BW530. So first donation of the day. Thank you very much, brother. No need to do so, but I do really appreciate it. It helps massively. Again, legends, you don't need to ever pay me to listen to any of this. You don't need to ever donate, but of course it is massively appreciated because I am I'm as independent as you can get, and I'd like to get to a point of which it doesn't matter if I get demonetized. BW, I appreciate your takes. Wishing you health and happiness. Brother, I'm wishing you and your family health and happiness as well. TS Kawa, Willie, hello. Do you think the Iranian regime will survive? And if it does that mean the US will be dragged into a new Afghanistan-like quagmire that will weaken it? Well, this is the primary risk consideration that I am taking, Mr. T.S. Cower, is the US need a clear line in the sand of exit. That they go, if we can't do it in 4 weeks, regardless, we're out. Because what they can't afford to do is what happened in Afghanistan and shifting goalposts. They can't keep shifting goalposts like what happened, because then you just get stuck into a, quote Trump, forever wars. So that is the problem. The problem is, though, it is very difficult it's easy to kill a man. It's hard to kill an idea. And that's the way I'll talk about ideologies like this. And furthermore on that, when you do kill the man and he's martyred, a lot of the time the idea becomes stronger. Okay, right. So thank you for your question, Legend. I appreciate that. Drakar 769 says, we know Iran will lose, but goddamn, they farm aura. Thing is with losing and winning, it's always hard winning and losing in war. I'm not convinced that we will see a clear winner and loser. And I know people have already celebrated victory, including people like Mr. Hegseth, who knows better. He knows that the regime has merely lost its leader, that the regime has not been toppled. That's not how that works. And people are declaring basically victory all over the line. For Iran to win, they have to survive. For Israel and the US to win, they have to have a complete victory. Someone will be able to fill me in on the chat the exact Kissinger quote about this regarding guerrilla forces, but I believe you can extend this to ideological causes. And for the ideological cause to win, it just has to survive. For you to win, for the conventional military to win, you have to have a all-out victory. And as we have seen in previous times, whether it be Vietnam, Afghanistan, or Iraq, it's exceptionally difficult and can be exceptionally expensive. Of course, I've said multiple times, I hope the best for the Iranian people, but many, many times over, we have seen things like this go south quickly. No need to say my name. Okay, legend, I won't do, but thank you for the PayPal donation. Again, guys, no need to donate, but if you're going to, the PayPal is significantly better because I can access that money to make the stream better now and, of course, buy that new computer because mine died. And YouTube doesn't take a cut. And what's the last thing we want to do? We don't want to give more money to the oligarchs in Silicon Valley. Right. So I'm going to listen to this from Mr. Tucker Carlson. Now, one thing I don't know much about, and I'm going to reach out to many of my friends who are far more knowledgeable on the grey zone warfare than I. It's one of the largest blessings in my life is able to have many contacts who work in many, many, many interesting career paths. And luckily some who can fill me in on exactly how some grey zone operations work. And there's a lot of talk about Tucker and potential Qatari contacts. Now, I'm not saying therefore he is compromised. I'm not suggesting that. But what I am saying is he may have very good contacts feeding information as well. The Pickle, thank you for your super chat, says, can't tell me what to do. A beer. Well, Pickle, I think the chat will be on you for a bit. He's now concerned about his spelling. Emmanuel says, Willie, this message was promised to you 3,000 years ago. Yes, it was. Right, let's turn this up and then have a listen to what Mr. Tucker Carlson is saying. Let me just do this. Did Modi know all this being in Israel last week? I am unsure how much information sharing is between the Israelis and the Indians. What I will say is Israel, as a minor power, major power influence, minor power actual, as far as ability to export power. Their main influence in Israel is in political power, but as far as like raw power, it's still a very small state. What Israel is really doing is building connections, and they're not willing to cut off connections of growing states or other powerful states. This is why, even though the US and the Europeans, etc., all sanctioned the hell out of Russia and cut off diplomatic relation, Israel kept all of that open. And this is exactly what I see that Israel is doing, growing the relationship with India, is the great power balancer. And Israel needs to, as a smaller power, balance between powerful states. And that is exactly what they are doing by being able to balance against potentially diminishing power in the US. I think Israel has seen that in the next decade, they are going to have significantly less power in the USA. So therefore, they need closer partners, and therefore are moving closer to states like India. I wouldn't be surprised if we see attempts from Israel to open relations with China. Right, let's look at what Mr. Tucker is saying.
So it's probably not, hasn't been reported, but it's a fact that last night in Qatar and Saudi Arabia, authorities arrested Mossad agents planning on committing bombings in those countries. Now, that's weird. That doesn't make any sense. Why would the Israelis?
What I will say is it makes complete sense. I'm not saying I agree with it, but this is one of the things that annoys me trying to be an online reporter, is you can absolutely say things make complete sense without supporting the action. I do not support grey zone operations that can be lethal. I know it happens, but it's part of it. I don't support false flags. But does it make sense? Yeah, absolutely it does. It makes complete sense for a intelligence security force to carry out operations like this, to drag third or fourth states into this, to alleviate pressure on themselves. Absolutely it does. As I've said, that if I was Zelensky, if I was running the Ukrainian intelligence services, one of the things I'd be looking at is I'd go, I need to get other countries involved in this to increase my relative power. And if I was Israel, I'd be doing the exact same thing. And this is what Tucker is saying. Now, I'm not saying, therefore, this is or isn't true, but I'm saying it makes sense. It's what you and I would do as rational leaders in this situation. Canadine, thank you for your donation, brother.
Be committing bombings in two Gulf countries, which are also being attacked by Iran. Aren't they on the same side? No. Israel wants to hurt Iran and Qatar and UAE and Saudi and Bahrain and Oman and Kuwait. And they've succeeded.
So Tucker makes a point out there that Israel wants to hurt Qatar and Oman and Saudi and the UAE, etc., etc., etc. We can apply here the idea of John Mearsheimer's offensive realism. What offensive realism for him basically boils down to is that all countries, their ultimate goal is to not only maintain the status quo of power, but to increase their relative power and become a regional hegemon. And by weakening these states, it increases the relative power and influence of Israel. I actually do believe, in my opinion, I think the Israelis are concerned about the amount of Kuwaiti power in the US as well, replacing some of their own. So therefore, it makes complete sense to do this too. This area of the world is highly unstable in the past century, as well as there's a lot of lines drawn both religiously, ethnically, etc. So it's a boiling pot in here. And what we can see too is we do need to, people don't like this, but we do need to look also at oil. Is we saw America take Venezuela fairly swiftly, although it's still very early to tell the long-term implication of this. We saw that oil from Venezuela then going to Israel. That's where the oil was going, from Venezuela to Israel. Now we're seeing these oil giants cut off. UAE, Saudi, Qatar, Kuwait, Iraq, and Iran. These oil giants cut off. Oil will increase in price, and big exporters like America and therefore now Venezuela as basically part, or Russia, will make hand over fist money while reducing the power in this region. Israel, Qatar, etc. There, if you follow Mearsheimer's offensive realism, what they want to do is they want to increase their relative power in the region. Paulie says, how long before a false flag in the US directly to cancel US midterms and polling for Trump, now that polling for Trump is diving? I don't know, Paulie, if you will see a false flag to do it. I wouldn't be surprised to see further false flags. We are dealing with countries here who have carried out many, both successful and unsuccessful false flags, although it does appear that Israel has a Teflon coating when it commits a false flag, that it seems that no one really cares. If any other state committed some of the false flags of which calls an ally committed the false flag, we would never be forgiven. So there's actually less risk for them carrying it out than many other states. But I don't think that anyone will have to carry out a false flag for midterms. Either we'll go ahead, or there'll be some level of declaration of chaos or martial law or something like that, whether it's to do with like rioting in a state, war, etc. I wouldn't be surprised to try and get around the midterms, because the current outlook for the midterms is going to be a nightmare for if Don loses the House the actual ability to conduct actions as he is. It's a big, big problem for him. Operation Epic Fury. I bet the comments on that aren't out of hand. Right, apologies. Okay, we have a little bit more footage of then these downed pilots. Remember, overnight, the US has lost 3 F-15 Echoes. A big loss to, 110, 120 million per plane. Big loss. Was reportedly from Kuwaiti Air Defense, although we are unsure at this point in time. There's still investigation, although we had been specifically told that this is not from enemy fires, but it was a friendly fire or a green on blue. So remember, people may or may not know this, blue on blue would be like America fires on America, goes down. Green on blue is partner on America, but allied partner or friendly partner. So for instance, like when we were serving, if we had, I shot Jono, that'd be a blue on blue. But if Abdul shot Jono, that would be green on blue. It's a little bit different because therefore that can be on purpose. And I do believe there would be a lot of investigations at the moment being like, was this on like 3 down? It's bloody suspicious. And that's why I think the investigation really needs to run its course. Will we ever truly know what happened there? Likely not. But it needs to be sorted out quickly. Right. Jason Turnbull, thank you on the PayPal. Thank you, brother. I appreciate that a lot, man. What was I looking at? Oh, okay. So there is a lot of reports as well that air defense. So actually, sorry, this is one of the biggest pieces of news. Is there's multiple reports that stocks of air defense interceptors in multiple Gulf states are running dangerously low, to the point of only a few days left on some of these countries to actually have the capacity to intercept Iranian missiles. Of course, what we have seen is already a lot of these missiles and drones are getting through. In the UAE, in Bahrain, in Kuwait, there's a lot of strikes already. As you can see from the US embassy in Saudi Arabia here has appeared to have at least 2 direct impacts. But stocks in the region are running low. And what I am seeing through initial reporting is that America is moving a THAAD system from the Republic of Korea, South Korea, that they are moving a THAAD from there into the Middle East area of operations, into the MEO, as we used to call it, Middle East operations. So yeah, moving a THAAD from Korea to here, as well as pulling PAC-3 missiles. The US is reportedly pulling PAC-3s from areas in the Asia Pacific into the Middle East theater of operations. Now, this tells us a lot, and you can frame this in multiple different ways. But what it does tell us is that there's more air defense needed in this area of the world. But it does, of course, there's only a finite amount of interceptors and systems, and the actual manufacturing capacity of air defense interceptors is absurdly low. It's absurdly low. I can't believe that this wasn't priority number 1 when looking across at Ukraine. This is the thing, what annoys me is like, why are we not taking these lessons and really acting on it? What does Ukraine show us? That the whole West is dangerously low on air defense interceptors, massively low. Things like PAC-3s, PAC-2s, and a whole range of different types. And the amount they can actually make is very, very few. And what this may do of moving systems out of the Asia Pacific is, of course, weaken the ability for interceptions of potential North Korean strikes, or, of course, much larger, the ability to counter if there was Chinese strikes. Now, do I think that China or North Korea will exploit this? No, I don't believe so at all. I don't think that we are at a point of which we would see China take kinetic operations on Taiwan. I think there's too many considerations that they have seen over the past 4 years of war in Ukraine and here for that at the moment. That said, again, it does leave areas more vulnerable. And of course, if you're rounding up missiles to deploy into these areas, it does mean that partners are going to have fewer stocks, and it does mean that there's going to be significantly less to a country like Ukraine. At the end of the day, the US will give weapon systems to its own operations and closer partners of Israel, Qatar, UAE, etc., of which it does huge amounts of business with and economically massive, before it will Ukraine. So, as I've always said, I don't believe the strategic strikes in Ukraine are going to have a decisive effect, but of course it's all part of the holistic nature of war, and I do believe in the next month, likely the next couple of months, we will see a measurable increase in ballistic cruise missile strikes in Ukraine's success. We're not going to see an increase in the amount of systems fired from Russia, I don't believe, but we may see that it going from X% intercepted to significantly lower. As we know, the Germans, they held a whole campaign to try and get 30 AD interceptors. 30 missiles, not air defense systems, just missiles, reached out to Europe to do it, couldn't fill the order of 30. We saw in an attack the other night, one of the Gulf states fired up to 12 in a single attack against missiles. It tells us a lot. Niels, thank you, my brother. How do you see NATO respond if Turkey enters the war on the side of Iran versus Israel? Since Naftali Bennett said they are the next if Iran goes down. Yes, we have seen comments from Israeli officials that Turkey is a growing threat. Of course, Turkey is a NATO member, but Turkey is also an incredibly powerful country. Turkey is often forgotten about, but is likely the second most powerful country in NATO. Of course, you could look towards Germany, France, Turkey, but I think Turkey, given recent operational history, recent development of sovereign systems, and the balance of powers they can do. They still have diplomatic relations with many other nations. They're not just in the echo chamber that maybe Germany and France are within. Turkey is a very, very powerful state. Now, Niels, to get back to this, what will NATO respond? Turkey has conducted operations of which it basically hits the pause button on NATO. Now, I've been very critical of that too. Very critical, because I say, no, you shouldn't be able to pause and restart your ability to have Article 5 or be part of NATO restrictions and capability and defense. And this is what we see a lot of the time in Syria, or that we used to see, that these Turkish strikes are Turkish solo outside of NATO. But then this becomes a problem. Like, yeah, but I bet if then there was a huge strike back in, that would be part. I think you're either in or you're out. You can't be half in, half out. No, you're either in or out. That said, would we see a response? I don't know. Turkey entry would change things dramatically. And would change all of the equations of cost of the war, would go from this to this very quickly. Thank you, Niels. USA checking in. Hey, mate, I hope that you are doing well. Someone says BB is on Fox. We do know, too, that Israel does control a lot of sway over American delivery of systems to Turkey. It is likely someone may have a different situation to this, but from my reading, the reason why Turkey couldn't get the F-35 fighter aircraft was primarily due to Israel suggesting no. And that is when the Turkish then had to develop the Kaan? Kaan. It looks like an F-35. It looks like an F-35 and an F-22 had a kid. I know they did struggle on a high efficiency, low detection engine for that aircraft. And I believe they were working, the Americans wouldn't sell them. So then they approached the Russians. But then I think the Americans reopened so they wouldn't approach the Russians. I did a lot of research into that aircraft. I don't know, probably 2 years ago. But as someone does correctly point out, I missed who said it, but it did say Turkey has tremendous bargaining power. Absolutely. 5-2 is Turkey a NATO partner? I thought it was tonight. You know, Turkey is a NATO partner. They're not an EU partner, but they're a NATO partner. Kobe said, hasn't some Israeli official stated Turkey was next on the shopping block? Yes, he has. Bennett. I'm finished with my coffee, although half of it, I spilt bloody half of the thing. So, yes, we do need to take into consideration. We do need to take into consideration spillage from this war guy. That's what we need to take in. Extreme Sergio talks about sabotage of systems. And this is one of the things too. This is why there is growing voices in the military, including in Australia, to move away from a lot of systems that were created through coalitions or institutions, because there is absolute reliance on other states and even potential backdoor shutdowns. There was a lot of rumor that America could, if needed, shut down F-35s. And a lot of people were suggesting a lot of that was done on request of America's bosses. And therefore, you see other states working to move away. And you do see some of the European states are more, no, we don't want reliance on your chains or on your system, so we're going to develop other systems. And I think that is a good strategic move. You cannot underestimate the importance of strategic sovereignty in wartime. This is one thing. Although the Russian military-industrial complex is nowhere near the size of, say, the Americans, it is very sovereign. This came out in a briefing, I won't say too much more, in the past couple of months, is actually the Russian industrial complex is far more sovereign than people thought, and actually far less reliant on external factors. And that's why it's actually very, very difficult to get on top of and clamp down to stop those systems being made. And this is the primary reason for, say, China building up even things like car industries, military industries, going from analogs of Russian planes to sovereign planes, is they want then sovereign strategic independence. And that makes complete sense. This is China moving towards green energy. Now, I'm not saying that there isn't a part of China that is doing it, for the good of the earth, emissions free. There's definitely a part of that. It isn't the sole driving factor. The sole driving factor is sovereignty away from countries. So if they're reliant on our gas, like our Australia gas, our coal, etc., they know that is a weak point and that can be cut off at times of war or leveraged against sanctions or tariffs, etc. And if they don't have that resource available within their own state, what they need to then do is, well, what can we do? Emissions free, or not emissions free, but we'll look at renewable energy, solar, wind, wave, etc., and battery storage, and then move in that direction. And that's why we are seeing it. HGZSC says, wait, what? Israel's pissed at Turkey? Yes, very. So let me have a quick scroll so it's going on. Donald Trump, speaking to News Nation, said you'll find out soon what the retaliation will be for tonight's attack by Iran on US embassy in Saudi Arabia and US service members killed in Kuwait, which there has been at least one more US service member confirmed killed in this theatre of war. So Rubio has said here that they can build 100 ballistic missiles a month. We build maybe 6 or 7 interceptors per month versus thousands of one-way drones. And this isn't a massive consideration to make, that there's just not enough interceptors. This is where we have said this war needs to be over reasonably quickly. This is let me find it. Where is that? So, oh no, I've run over my own cable. God damn it! I'm gonna ruin my headphones by doing that. Okay, as we always talk about, there's a very, very good book, this Planning for Protraction by Dr. Iskander Raymond. This is one of the books that I use absolutely the most for my reporting and a reference point. I had the pleasure of actually speaking to Mr. Iskander about protracted warfare. My primary criticism with that interview was that, and this is very common amongst the think tank academic community, is the lessons are correct. The lessons are fantastic, but they will not apply the same lessons to the war in Ukraine. And this drives me up the fucking wall. Is they will say, we need to look at industrial output capacity. We need to look at this. Okay, if we're happy to apply that lesson of where we need to learn for for China and a Western war, and we're happy to apply it for this war, what does that tell us about Russia? Oh, well, no, it doesn't apply there. Yes, it does. And that's that's one of the things that it annoys the shit out of me in that community, is that they will not apply the same lessons, rules, doctrine into that purely because of, if you will, ideological reasons. But I wanted to find this part where he has a very clear criticism of fighting wars as if they were battles. And I do agree that it is very important that the West or America wins wars quickly. Because after that, there's not the actual depth and then political will, especially in the system, can become a huge problem very soon after. So, page 19, Planning for Protraction. While the opening phases of high-intensity conflict are critical, they are rarely determinative. Temporarily crippled opponents can recuperate. The new American way of war, with its intense emphasis on speed and precision firepower, can occasionally appear excessively geared towards fighting, quote, wars as if they were battles, and thus risks confusing the winning of campaigns or small-scale actions with the winning of wars. Let's go over that again. The intense emphasis from the Americans in this new way of speed and precision firepower can appear as if fighting wars as if they were individual battles, rather than winning of campaigns or small-scale actions with winning wars. So winning each battle, but you need to win the war. Just like I said, there wasn't a battle in Afghanistan that the Americans lost, but ultimately, without a holistic view of war, they lost the war. An equal, if not greater degree of attention should be therefore placed on the study of less operationally absorbing, but more deliberate tempo of protracted warfare, and on prevailing at the end of the draining marathon rather than an intense opening sprint. And if you were, say to me, I'd be saying in a war with America, the most important thing is that you can survive the first week. And from then, it's going to become more difficult. He then continues. Throughout history, short war thinking has all too often run aground on jagged shoals of political reality, with states repeatedly underestimating the amount of pain and devastation their determined adversaries could absorb prior to even contemplating surrender. After much expenditure of blood and treasure, war termination is rendered all the more elusive by the honour to sunk costs, sunken cost fallacy, as we went over yesterday, and by the resultant escalation of commitments serving to justify earlier military investments and sacrifices. This is what we see in Russia and Ukraine at the moment, is the amount of costs sunk into the war. Therefore, war termination has become more elusive. As Fred Ark noted, the greater the enemy's effort and costs for fighting a war, the more he will become committed to his own conditions for peace, thus rendering the prospect of any mutually acceptable resolution all the more difficult. Protraction also tends to breed brutality, whether through deliberate or inadvertent escalation, as increasingly frustrated and vengeful antagonists progressively jettison their self-imposed operational restrictions and moral reservations, ratcheting up the levels of aggression before eventually engaging in total warfare. Who would have thought that we would be on a ebook online or a audiobook more so? But very important lessons. But we also need to see that we can apply these lessons not just to America or China. We need to apply them across multiple states, as well as a holistic view that we can't view war as winning battles. And this is the thing. We have seen time and time again, states win every battle but lose the war. And it's not just American examples. Look at the Soviets. The Soviets won every single battle, did not lose a single position in Afghanistan. And then, ultimately, they withdrew out and Afghanistan sped up the erosion of the USSR dramatically. And as Extreme says, yes, these are universal laws of modern warfare. Now, legends, I can hear, I don't know if you can hear that, I can hear my washing machine beeping. Give me a couple of minutes. I need to go hang out the sheets, of which I'll hang out the sheets on the line and then I'll forget about them. I'll go to bed at midnight and I'll get back to an empty mattress. But I'll be back in a second. Need to hang those out. Right. Okay. I'll be back. Thanks, lads. Rightio, legends. Who thought that you could be doing house chores at the same time as streaming about a war? Right, let me do a little bit of refreshing, see what is happening. But I've got the washing machine on. I've got everything going while we do this. Now, Donald Trump was asked about potential attacks in the US. It's part of war. It's part of war whether people like it or not. That's the way that it is. So the US is preparing people for further losses and further strikes as well. Rue Combo says, if this escalates, it's nice knowing you all. Of course, there's always a threat of spillage and of escalation. There's also the I was thinking about Russian and Chinese support for this war too. What we've seen is very, very little support. Likely the only support given has been in soft powers, such as ISR, so intelligence, surveillance, reconnaissance, satellite imagery, Beidou satellite navigation, etc. But in, say, a week's time, if Russia or China then chose to deliver systems potentially across the Caspian Sea to Iran, that would have significantly more impact than now. Pickle says, dryer sheets, yes or no? No, I've got the sheets on the clothesline. Bloody clothes, like, mate, to run the dryer is bloody expensive. You need to remember that I am a huge tight ass with money. Someone says, Willie's got a WMD, a washing machine duties. Yes, exactly. I think the dishwasher will end soon too. And I put on another load of washing. It's I try and do as many chores around the house through the day while working as I can to break up the day. But also because Lily actually has a real job, I don't want her to get home to like dirty anything. Did I just admit to being now a stay-at-home fucking boyfriend? Damn. From Reuters, exclusive US Marines fired on protesters storming consulate in Karachi in Pakistan. Again, not surprising to have seen that. We saw the footage of this back in the day. Back in the day, 3 days ago. Iranian ballistic impacts in Manama, Bahrain. Bahrain has been hit very, very hard. Australia is a third world nation. Clothes dryers are a luxury. No. Like most people have clothes dryers, but our energy in Australia, electricity is super. I actually believe South Australia, where I live, is one of the highest electricity rates in Australia. So, yeah. Not running the dryer, but it's also very sunny. So it'll just dry, it'll hang dry. It's fine. Lockie says, in the footage of the downed F-15 pilots, none of them seem to have a weapon. Is that just movie stuff? Surely they'll be able to pick an SMG or pack an SMG or pistol. No, I know for a fact that pilots do have often weapon systems under the seats. I wouldn't, because I know that there was a contract that was going on picking a new weapon system that had to, one of the considerations was the length of the system had to be able to fit in under the ejection seat. So they would absolutely have a weapon in that plane. I'd be pretty sure of it. That said, maybe while flying over Q80 territory, they may not. But also, it doesn't mean they didn't. They may have had one on the ground, but not have taken it from the seat, depending on where they landed. It may be off wherever. Carl says Willie's earned himself a leave pass from his partner. Yeah, I wish I could have a day off work. I wish I had paid leave. Q8 had the most hits. Yeah, Q8 has been hit very hard. Rapid Rhino says, Willie, if the West doesn't have the future I want, I don't want anyone else to have theirs. I don't know if you're quoting me. I wouldn't have said that. And that's absolutely not any level of rhetoric that I'd ever have. I want the best for everyone. And And I want the West to have a future. Because at the moment, I think that we are eroding the possibility of a peaceful future. Someone says, looking healthy. Thank you. Right. US CENTCOM. Footage last night of the B-1 Bones. Multiple loud explosions. Let me duck back, see if... Can we get a bit of a respect to AMK for putting in astronomical hours for reporting in the last... how many hours? 72 hours? Nyat says, do we know why Iranian air defense is so shit? There's a few reasons for this. Firstly, degradation in the 12-day war. We don't know how much got damaged in the 12-day war. We know a lot of it from not only air seed and deed missions, but also from spike systems and agents on the ground and partisans on the ground. So we do know a lot was taken out in 12-day war. We don't know how much was delivered to Iran. Also, one of the biggest things with air defense is the operators of the systems too. The S-300 is a very capable system. We know that. But it does come down to the operations and the suppression of the system too. It is a far older system. So there's a lot of factors in this. It doesn't appear, we have seen no actual evidence that the rumoured Chinese air defense systems had been delivered, and we hadn't seen evidence of mass replacement of air defense systems following the 12-day war. So I think that tells us a lot. But what I will say is there is still not complete movement and freedom of movement in the sky above Tehran. Now, do the Americans and the Israelis have air dominance? Of course. But are we seeing freedom of absolute movements, planes flying around everywhere? We're not seeing that also. We did see this in the 12-day war. We did see for the first, say, week that Iran couldn't tend to get off any air defense. And after that, actually did start getting some off. Ru Kinbo says neocons, Black Rocks, worse than the Decepticons. Well, they've led to a lot of heartache. Right, Iran's out of missiles already? No. In this war, Iran will not run out of missiles. They'll run out of launches. That's Iran's weak point is the ability to launch the system, not its system itself. And this is why they prioritization of targeting the erector launchers and facilities to get the systems away than actually the system in the air. Wish you to do a PhD in Austria. I'm not going to do a PhD in Austria. A lot of work. Right. Let's have a look, see what else is coming through. We do have the H guys in Lebanon. They have really picked up strikes and entered into the and launching systems into the north of Israel. Israel is reportedly conducting cross-border operations into the south of Lebanon as well. Troops rolled Bahrain from Saudi Arabia to suppress pro-Iranian protests that are uprising in Bahrain. Yes, I have seen a lot of reports about this. I haven't seen any footage yet, but apparently there are a lot of unrest in Bahrain, of uprisings. And this can happen too, but this weakens a lot of these states. And again, this is what I've spoken about, is an outcome of this can be that unrest in all these states increases the relative power the US and Israel have in this region. Does Iran have submarines? Do you think it's possible for them to sink a carrier? Iran does have several midget submarines. Do I think it's possible to sink a carrier? Well, nothing is impossible. Well, not nothing impossible. Theoretically, yes. What I've said is the amount of systems it would take to do it would be a not very efficient way of using those systems. So imagine they had to fire 100 hypersonics to be able to get through the defenses and take out one of those carriers. The efficiency of that versus those 100 hitting 100 targets of oil facilities in this area of the world would likely have a larger effect internationally and on target. Kimbo, thank you, says you're the best, Willie. And Buhon says, could Iran be holding back advanced systems? Well, this is the thing, is we need to, thank you for your donation, but we also need to look at the 12-day war. And I know people are sick of me harping on about this, but it's the best example we have of how this may play out. And in the 12-day war, in the first 4, 5, 6 days, everyone was like, Iran's got no systems left, etc., etc., etc. And then on days 8, 9, 10, we started seeing more high-end systems coming out as the air defense systems got low on ammunition and started to be more suppressed in this region of the world. So it would make sense to delay on those systems until later in the war, as per we did see in the 12-day. Now, does that mean they are holding back? No. It just means that that is what we saw them do last time, which would mean it's likely we're seeing it this time. And yes, sorry, I did. Yes, they do have a couple of kilo class subs too. What I do need to say too is this area down on the peninsula is, from my limited reading of the submarines, it's very, very loud waters. I don't know beyond what that means, but I guess there's a unbelievable amount of shipping traffic in here. Therefore, the shipping, the engines, the wake of the ship, waves, all of this. So it's a very loud area of sea. So apparently it's easier for Iran to hide lower end submarines in this area of the world than it would be in others. And the sonars or the systems aboard more technically advanced submarines don't have the same level of superiority that they would in other bodies of water. Lockie says, do you think Iran's going all out at the moment? If you were an IRGC commander, what's the strategic path here versus launching everything at once to overwhelm? Thank you for your donation, mate. Are they going all out? Hard to tell at the moment. It's always impossible to actually measure what has been destroyed versus what has been fired. And if you ask, if I was the commander here of this, with launching everything at once, because once you launch everything, everything's gone. That's the problem. Is I'd be wanting to, looking at the history of wars like this, I want to prioritize survival and time. That I want to drag this as long as I can, because at the end of the day, there's only so much resource allocation to this war, and political leverage from then oppositions in America against this. So the number one thing I'd be looking for, if I was a commander on the opposing side to the US here, would be extension of time. That's what I'd be looking at. Exactly like how then dudes in flip-flops and sneakers beat the most powerful militaries on the earth in Afghanistan, being both the USSR and then the coalition, is drag it out. Drag. The idea that you may have the watches, but we have the time. That's what I'd be looking for. That's my prioritization. Thank you, Lockie. So I'm being told Rubio was more clear on the objectives, that destroy ballistic missile capability, including the manufacturing, and destroy then any naval capability for global shipping. And someone says Vietnam too. Yes, exactly. Again, I'm not saying it will play out like that, but I'm saying that if we're not looking back at very similar operations, well, we're walking into the future with our eyes closed. It doesn't mean that it will play out like that whatsoever, but we have to look at the best examples that we actually have. Rocket launches in northern Israel from southern Lebanon. So, open source is saying Saudi says 8 Iranian attack drones. It is funny. We're seeing a lot of these MODs go down the Russia-Ukraine path of everything is intercepted. It's just debris, which is you'll see a Russian oil refinery like on fire. It's like that was debris that fell on that, guys. We're seeing that that playbook play out. Which makes sense. This is the thing. I'm highly critical of propaganda because my whole job is to cut through propaganda. But I guarantee, guys, if you ever see me as a prime minister, I'm pushing propaganda. I understand it's incredibly important, the informational space during wartime. But it's important for us to be able to cut through that, and even more important for military commanders to be able to see what is propaganda and what is truth. And I do believe, you know, the old don't, don't smoke from your stash or whatever. What's that saying? But I do believe there's a lot of that in military decisions made in high ranks recently is belief in their own propaganda. They're actually pushing into command decision, which I think is in turn dangerous for command decision. And this is the thing, is propaganda must support command decisions and military operations. It can't be the opposite. Don't get high from your own supply. Yes, exactly. Christian Cannon, thank you for becoming a Mini Willy member. Don't shit where you eat. Yeah, exactly. So I am being told from a friend of mine who's probably listening to this that Rubio has been significantly more clear on objectives. To be honest, let me know what you think of this. The most competent person, I think, actually in the current administration is Rubio. Of course, you've got Trump, who is very ego-driven and what's the word I'm looking for outspoken, over the top. Oh my God. Anyway, very ego-driven, no wordy. Go for it. Hegseth is just fucking Hegseth. Hegseth is a literal Pete Hegseth is the sort of dude that watched Team America and found it inspirational. Vance is he's just an agent of Palantir. The Rubio, he seems to be the most competent guy, and that he has outlaid the more objectives, that is to destroy ballistic capacity and destroy naval capability to go shipping, and that everything else for like regime change is desirable outcomes but not mission essential. That basically it'd be good if there is a regime change, but that's the Iranian people to dictate that. But they're more focused on the ballistic capability and naval capability. So it does seem to have a limited focus. But that said, this is where the Americans do need to be careful of operation creep, goalposts shifting, because then you start putting in all this. But the problem is, I don't see that they're going to be able to sell a victory if the regime and ideology still exist in the way it is. Zaki says, hey, mate, has Tucker's claims been substantiated in open source reporting. He has an agenda and bias like everyone else. He's also a fan of keeping his truth and fact. Keep up the good work otherwise. Yeah, this is where I did say, Zach, I did say that Tucker has a lot of contacts into Qatar and has been very outspoken against Israel in the past. So as I said at the time of reporting, we do need to apply that lens when looking at this. So we will see. But also, it would make strategic sense. So, yeah, the State Department ordered citizens to immediately leave 14 countries, as we see here. Although, my question would be, how are these citizens getting out of a lot of these countries when there's either no planes going or the tickets are unbelievably expensive? But also, interesting country in here of Egypt. Same case as Egypt too. Right, let me have a quick look. If you're wondering, it's Pepsi Max time. Right, we haven't had any new news for a few minutes. But that said, we've been very used to just getting just massive amounts of news coming through recently. So just hold your horses for a bit. Sorry, I'm just trying to read through. I'm getting sent a lot. So apparently, there's been, for those who watch my updates on Ukraine-Russia war, you do know one of the most substantial changes the Russians have had in the last 6 months on FAB and Geran drones has been what's called a Comet antenna. Basically, new antenna within the system that is more shielded from jamming. Okay? It's one of the biggest updates we've seen. Of course, we saw about 6 months ago a huge drop in successful FAB strikes. Then we saw a huge uptick, and that was the main reason, is actually that antenna. And there are reports that on a Iranian Shahed drone that has been downed in Cyprus, is that a Russian Comet antenna was found inside of one. This is exactly the point I made the other day. What I said was, we know that the Russians have a larger technological advantage and industrial base than Iran, substantially. And that the Russians simply bought the licensing for the Geran. They then, for the Shahed, they're manufacturing them, and they've had several updates over time. And what we did say on day 1 or day 2 of this is, I wonder if any of those updates have actually gone back to Iran. And at the moment, there is initial reporting that it may have done. And we know that those Comet antennas are substantially better against Western electronic warfare and jamming than the previous ones were. Liam Nelson says, judging by Rubio's speech, it sounds like Israel really forced US hand in these strikes. Yes, absolutely. But that's exactly what happened in the 12-day war. Sorry, guys, about Captain. He will be hidden. He'll be blocked for just spamming. Apologies, it took me a while to see that. Right, yeah, any spamming I'll just be removing permanently. So yes, it's interesting to see that that radar system. Right, just looking on the Telegram at the moment. Israel's begun, it seems as if they've begun operations South Lebanon. Also, Legends, can you do me a huge favor while you are here? Can you please go and watch the Ukraine update video that I did yesterday? It is very it's very rare that I get an ad placement. Very rare I get an ad placement, and of course with a lot of eyes being away from Ukraine and more on this theatre of war, the performance of the video was lagging. But can you please go and just watch that video? That would do me a huge amount, please. Alexi, just woke up. I live in Dubai. Can you get me up to date on the strikes from last night? Well, your day. Alexi, I hope you're having a great time. Mate, beyond the usual strikes, as far as an actual update on the UAE, it's hard to tell at this point in time the actual strikes. We can have a look through Mr. AMK, but it does appear more strikes against, say, US facilities, as well as strikes against some areas. But as far as specific targeting in the UAE, it's still very, very limited. Dare the Machine says, on it. Thank you, brother. Of course, what Dare is talking about is he's referring to the video I put up yesterday. To go and watch that. If there's any specifics you'd like me to speak on, let me know. I also will be doing a podcast with an expert around this as a special episode, speaking specifically about this war. Right, love your vids, Tron. Thank you, brother. I really appreciate that, man. Right, Willie. Hi, Willie. Alexander McCurse gave your analysis and endorsement today. Oh, did he? Miller Pebble, can you tell me where he said that? In a Duran video. Fantastic. Great. Duran are lovely guys. I'd like to have the pleasure to speak to them again in the near future. If, of course, the offer's there. Which I think it was I think it was a good episode for them. What was it in relation to? On the interview with Daniel Davis. That's cool. Great. Well, hopefully I can get some more interviews or be interviewed a couple of times from my appearance on the Duran. Mean Ugly P says, how does it impact the US economy if it continues longer than expected, like a year plus? If this continues longer than like a year plus, it'll impact the world economy massively, just due to the oil giants here and how much this is going to cost America. Don't don't underestimate how much money this war would have already cost America. This war already would have cost billions of dollars. So America lost minimum of $330 million worth of aircraft yesterday, just in the day, let alone the missile stocks that hit those missiles were also likely paid for by America. So if this continues over that time, it's going to substantially increase. Christian says, your Duran appearance has been your best performance on a podcast to date. Clear and precise. Thank you, Christian, mate. I think it went well. So, yeah, cheers. And thank you to those boys for the shout-out. James says, is Albanese, who's the Australian Prime Minister, the GOAT? No. I can tell you that that's he's definitely not. What I want to do is I'm just going to have a look at the oil prices while we're having a bit of a lull. So we can see it has, over the past days, we did see a large jump, but it has really stabilized around that $80 or $79 mark. You can see it ticking away. Move this across a little bit. Willie, to lighten the mood, would you rather face a juvenile 12-foot long great white shark in 4 feet of water or a mature alpha male muscle kangaroo in 3 feet of water? The kangaroo any day. I grew up and still live in areas where there's a lot of sharks, and I don't want any part of that. Glyn Bonds, you're a legend, mate. Keep up the good work. Thank you, Glinny. As well as Amir. Right. Amir says the Garan shot down with the Cometa only had 4 channels, where the Russian Cometa ones have 12 or 16 channels. So it's a drone, meaning the drone was from older batches. Okay, so bit of further knowledge on those radars. Thank you for sending that through, mate. We appreciate that on which level that those Garans will actually have. Appreciate it. Tron asks a question many have asked about, could China use this to take Taiwan? Look, yes, but you need to remember too that it's not just that they are ready to go to do it. You remember that America, listen to Hegseth or Kane or whoever, they've been saying we've been preparing to do this for months. It likely got to the point of which they were unable then to back out. It would, if China was to take this opportunity to take Taiwan, it's still going to take weeks before they were anywhere close to ready to move. It takes a long time to move a lot of assets. Even just getting people ready, getting them weapons, getting ammunition, boats, everything, and we would start seeing preparations for it. The main opportunity for China could be the lack of air defense in Taiwan, but there's still not the lack in Taiwan, but the lack of air defense in the region as some of it is moving towards the Middle East. That doesn't mean that this isn't going to be astronomically expensive and painful for the Chinese to take Taiwan. That is an incredibly complex operation. I was speaking to a dear friend of mine. I've spoken about this conversation before. He's very, very knowledgeable in anything military. And he said to me, because I said, I'm thinking of getting like an Airbnb in Taiwan for if, invasion happens, just like going and living there for a year. Of course, visas would be a nightmare. And he said, look, to be honest, if they do make a move on Taiwan, China can't go semi-loud. They have to go everything at once. They have to suppress, because they have to have a ground invasion and they have to move everything across at once. And he said the amount of air campaign from drones, missiles, bombs, everything, it would make shock and awe. It would make this look like child's play, because that they need to move 1 million forces across a couple of 100 kilometers of water. They have to immediately destroy and or suppress everything. He said it would be well, it would be loud like we've never seen before, of one-way attack drones, of aeroplanes, of missiles, etc., because it has to be suppressed immediately. Otherwise, you're going to have thousands and thousands killed in just ships sinking in the Strait. So I think that was a very interesting point too, of how loud that actually has to go. There's a huge consideration. Blockades, man. Blockades, you can still see that a naval blockade, like Japan was blockaded and still managed to fight for a very long time. Again, it's still going to be highly motivated to fight back against the Chinese invasion of Taiwan. Willie, you did a great job. Thank you, Gajraman. Just trying to keep up to date with everything that is going on. Of course, we won't be doing the usual Ukraine update videos while this is happening. I did think of doing it, but I just need to pace myself also. I can't burn myself out again. I did burn myself out following the release of those files for the PH, just emotionally and just working wise. It was, geez, I burnt myself out because it took an emotional toll on me because, you know, it's just disgusting stuff. It's heavy stuff. So that's why I ended up having a bit of time off recently. So I do need to learn to pace myself better than working for 12 or 14 hours daily, trying to make lives and updates and everything. Right. Ben says, if airstrikes can't break the resolve of the regime, how does this not evolve into a 10-year Great War on Terror type situation? Love your work, mate. Well, Benny, that's the concern, Benny, I've been bringing up since day one, is we do not have a single example of when airstrikes have had a complete successful regime change in war, that eventually you may need ground forces. The thing is that we'll see, Benny, is we'll see goalpost shifting, which we may already be seeing, into a successful outcome victory is elimination of the Navy and elimination of missile and nuclear. So that can be sold as a victory. But as far as if the airstrikes don't force an internal uprising, then yeah, that's the option left on the table, which would descend into multi-years. So yeah, you are correct. What I think, though, is there'll be another victory found. And this is what I've raised concern of from day one, is it seems, and this is where Rubio, who's the only one seemingly with bloody 2 cents between his head in that at the moment, has more clarified, no, the actual, if regime changes, great, but our primary is ballistic systems and Navy, suppression and destruction. But this is the concern I had from day one, is it seems that the strategy here was wholly reliant on internal domestic organic uprising within Iran, which I said that may happen, but at the same time, what if it doesn't? And that is why I raised that concern day one, which is a real concern. The most important part of your mission is reliant on the civilians of another state uprising against a government that will massacre them. And that's putting a lot of faith in people of which you can't control. There's people all arguing in the comments. Australian Air Defence Minister Richard Marles confirms airbase with Australian forces was struck by a drone over the weekend. That was Al Minhad, which is in the UAE. Locals in Iraq have recovered a crashed Lucas drone, which is the Lucas drone is the American Control C, Control V of a Russian Garand, which is a Control C, Control V of a Shahed. Say what you will about Iranian capacity. The Shahed is a fantastic design. How do we know it's a fantastic design? Because everyone's bloody copying it. The Russians copied it. The Americans copied it. The Ukrainians copied it. There'll be a heap of other copies of it. That tells us a lot about the design and the capability, effectiveness, efficiency of that particular system. And credit where credit's due. Those systems have been a large battlefield multiplier in this war and in the war in Ukraine. Someone says it doesn't mean it works. It definitely works. The Shahed, Iran, etc. has absolutely worked. For the mission state, people need to see that this is part of a layering defense system. Aussie defender Pakistani official speaking of the condition of anonymity told the New York Times today indeed strikes of groupings on Taliban infrastructure at Bagram Air Base. It's full circle, isn't it? We make Bagram, they take Bagram, Pakistani then target Bagram. Strike was due to the ongoing Taliban-led Afghanistan. I will say, Pakistan, you're the reason these guys are like so armed. Come on. The recent strikes stem from Afghans' response to Pakistani strike that killed a number of civilians. Of course, you look at where a lot of the plastic explosive originated that the Taliban were using against the boys there, Pakistan. Look at where the CIA was training and arming forces against the Soviets, Pakistan. And now Pakistan is in Afghanistan, almost like it comes back to bite you in the arse. Someone said, did you see that the Australian component Al Minhad got targeted? Yeah, Mr. Short Stuff. We just reported that. Came from the Defence Minister. Targeted by a drone. Someone says, all for what cost? Because nobody wins in the end. Basically, yeah. You can tell me in the comments what you think the end state of this war is going to be. James says, do you think that Epstein ordered the strike? No, he'd be ordering strikes on data centers. Thank you for your donation, mate. Netanyahu has said it may take some time, but it's not going to take years. It will be quick and decisive. He's also said it's not a terrible thing to protect humanity from theological thuggery who export death. Theological thuggery? Okay, sure. Like, yeah, absolutely. Iran is guilty of that, 100%. How the Iranian regime is, but I think when we're talking about theological thuggery, that's fucking stones in glass houses, brother. Sammy asks, do you think that Cappy Army channel is paid off by Israel? His information doesn't seem to reflect reality like honest channels like yours portray. Look, mate, I don't know. As I said yesterday, I don't watch much YouTube. All I will say is Cappy is a fantastic, lovely guy. But I have no idea. What I will say is there are several channels who absolutely have funding in the back end. Have a look at where some people have visited in the last couple of months, and they all visited at the same time to the same locations, same hotels, etc., etc., etc. You start getting more of an idea. And I think the people that have taken paid trips to push paid information need to be investigated as foreign agents, as agents for a foreign state. But I know Cappy, as someone points out, has done videos on Epstein, so I doubt it. I don't know. I don't know, but he's a great guy. Midnight Lexicon says, you may have already talked about this topic. There's a rumor that Israel twisted the arm of the US, threatening deployment of nuclear arsenal. I haven't seen the rumor of the threat of nuclear arsenal. Of course, Israel doesn't have a nuclear arsenal. But what we do know is what Mr. Rubio did say. I'm just trying to find the post for you now. That they needed to attack because Israel would have attacked. And following that, it would have... oh, shit, I wanted to show you this post as well. Damn. And following that, the US was... He said that the US was not willing to absorb that attack. So thank you, Midnight Lexicon. Let me find this. I just want to find the video I did before with Rubio to get the exact quote for you, mate. I was just laughing at photoshopped images of Mr. Rubio in different like Ayatollah outfits. Or different traditional dress of countries. So this is the post I think I shared before. Now, this isn't direct verbatim, but this is the spirit of what he said. There was an imminent threat. We knew that if Iran was attacked, we believe they would be attacked, they would immediately come after us, and we were not going to sit back and absorb a blow. So, basically suggesting that we knew that Israel was about to attack Iran, and if they did, and we were involved, then the retaliation strikes would have been far less suppressed than if America attacked at the same time, and that we weren't willing to absorb that blow. So that's I guess the answer to your question from Rubio. In the rumor of nuclear systems, no. Lancer 560. Willie, thanks for your reporting. I haven't looked at the mainstream media for Ukraine for a long time now. Keep it up. Thank you, Lancer. Mate, honestly, yeah, if you're just looking at the mainstream media around Ukraine, whether it's mainstream Russian media, mainstream Western media, you're not going to get a clear picture of the situation whatsoever. This is the video before about the Lucas drone, the American analog of a Russian Garan, which is then an analog of then a Iranian Shahed. There may be some there may have applied some updates to this, but you can see it's still using a very cheap, like air-cooled propeller engine on this, like the air-cooled Porsche.
Afghanistan.
JD Vance on his Twitter said the US president will not get, or the President Trump will not get the US into a years-long conflict with no clear objective. Iran can never be allowed to obtain a nuclear weapon. That was the goal of this operation, and President Trump will see this through to completion. Wasn't that obliterated, though? Of course, people are pointing out that guy fucking around with the Lucas drone, that will have a warhead on it, boys. Don't stuff around with explosives. If you ever find a drone, don't stuff around with it. Good idea. Just doing a bit of refreshing legends. So we have this footage here. This is one-way attack drone being successfully intercepted by a US Sea Ram at the Kurdistan airport, northern Iraq. Bloody impressive. Let's see if we can get some sound on this bad boy, actually. A bit of bird. Music. God damn it. You've killed me. You've removed one of the best sounds in the world. Come on. James says he's Turkey next. Well, there has been talk from Israel regarding Turkey. So you never know, but Turkey is a NATO country and a very powerful country. Very powerful country. Mr. Williams says, thank you for the PayPal. You talking about pacing yourself has been music to my ears. If you ever need anything, this is it. Okay, thank you, Mr. Williams. I appreciate that, mate, on the PayPal. US airstrikes are continuing in southern Iran at the port city of Bushehr. We have seen that Trump did say that there's about to be a large retaliation today in Iran. Again, we will see how much power can actually be projected and brought to bear here. Right, I am just going to close this for a second. I'm desperate to go take a piss. I'll be back. All right. Reminder, someone set a timer, 26 minutes. I need to go take the next load of washing out. Right, let's see what updates we are getting. AMK says channels are falsely claiming multiple explosions and strikes on Q8. Yeah, so US is considering reported relocation of its THAAD and Patriot systems currently in South Korea. Amid concerns, intercept stockpiles are running low. according to the South Korean military outlet, The Chosen Daily. Mr. Short says, for a brewer of beer, mate. Thank you. From your brother, from Charlie Company, ATF1. Thanks for your hard work you do. Duty first, don't forget about family. Thank you, Mr. Short Stuff, mate. I hope that you are doing really well, having a fantastic day, and looking after yourself, and hope your family as well also. So, yeah, there is more reporting today that there may, or more reporting in the last minutes, that there is potential movement of Patriot and or even a THAAD system from Korea in the direction of the Middle East, which of course does leave a big hole. Now, do I really think that this will then force China's hand on Taiwan? No. I just don't think they're ready. I don't think they'll be ready for at least another 6 months to a year, if at all, if it is militarily viable. Remember, the cost of taking Taiwan is not just manpower and resource, which would be huge. Is the economic cost too. Look at, and that is that interview I did with that Chinese Marine. One of the most interesting things he said to me was, observing the war in Ukraine, we get an idea of how the world will treat us if we move on Taiwan. And exactly, there'll be huge sanctions, countries refusing to do trade, all of this. So they need to take that into consideration as well for how things may look. And that is very important in modern times. But if it happens, we will be monitoring the situation. And I'm doing as much as I can. Most of my personal development, reading, writing, private work at the moment is all around trying to gain a better grasp of China and a better grasp of politics in general. So there's a lot more work behind the scenes. Mr. Shortstuff says, question, mate, do you still have the WRX? I have some bolt-on parts I would like to send you if you have PO box. Mr. Shortstuff, no, I got rid of the Rexy. For those unaware, I had a 2015 WRX STI with a little bit of work done, pushing about 430 horsepower at the wheels, which is a lot for a car like that. Paid for by a deployment to this area of the world. But no, I sold that. I needed to free up that amount of money. I couldn't have a mid $30,000 car. Someone says Nantons. Willie chooses the comments that suit. No, I don't. I do all of the paid comments and other ones of which I could speak on. Willie kind of sounds like Nigel from TBLS. I don't know what that is. Buying an expensive car is the most enlisted grunt thing ever. Yeah, bro. Literally, as a young digger, young grunt, buying an expensive car is almost like a rite of passage. Glea, thank you for the memberships. I'm sure people will massively appreciate that. Someone said, Big Les show, huge sub drop. Thank you very much. Right, US Embassy in Saudi Arabia struck by 2 suspected Iranian drones. No injuries have been reported. US Embassy. The embassy in Saudi Arabia was hit by 2 suspected Iranian drones. Saudi Defense Ministry confirmed the attack, saying it had caused limited fire and minor material damages. Something you do need to take into account is a lot of these, especially the US embassies in this area of the world, are literally a bomb, like a bunker. Like the embassy in Baghdad, the American embassy in Baghdad, is straight up bloody like doomsday bunker. And of course, there's a lot of unrest there over the past years. Am I grappling a very active member in the community? It says, Team Scooby for the win. Miss my O2 WRX terribly. Yeah, mate, I miss mine. If I ever had the money to buy another Subaru, I would, but they're just expensive. They're bloody expensive. I can't believe how some people can afford to run cars like that. Wilmot Pig says U.S. Secretary of State Rubio said the military had not used all of its strength and for the next blow to Iran to be the most devastating. And he thought, Williams Mont Pink, like America has a lot more strength to bear than this. America can project significantly more power than what we are seeing here. But there's always a toss-up between sustainment of power and the ability to have all-out strikes. So what the Americans do want is simultaneous and successive operations is more important than an all-out blow. You see this with, say, the Russian strategic strikes. They would prefer to hit Ukraine every night with 200 drones than once a week with 1,000. And we're seeing similar to that. The US knows that if it goes all out, then they may be then a shortage of other weapon systems, etc., into the near future. So, yeah, they can deliver far more power, but it's more about sustaining that too. But also, whilst keeping other elements in other theatres of war too. So, yeah, that's how I see it. But that does contrast against if there was movement on Taiwan, given that China has to move a huge amount of forces onto that island, they need both of that. They need a massive blow to begin with, and then they need to be able to sustain attacks for a long time. That's why there is a lot of considerations, and that's why it's so difficult for a movement on Taiwan. That's why Crimea would be unbelievably difficult to take also. Mr. Short said I've had a Rexy and an Evo, so I know about cost. Absolutely. Willie reminds me of Gary from In-Betweeners. I got to watch it. In-Betweeners is... Oh, from Mr. In-Between. Sorry, I've read it as In-Betweeners. I was going to say it's not Australian. Right, let's go back and do a little bit of refreshing and see what changes we are seeing. CNN, apparently more drone strikes at the embassy, US embassy in Saudi. Zach Evans, one of the higher donators here. Please stop. Again, you do not need to donate to me, guys. But I do really, of course, I appreciate it. You do not need to negotiate, though. Oh my God, you do not need to negotiate. Now I sound like Trump. You do not need to donate. But I do appreciate it. Zachy says, if you do want some personal development, read Storm Before the Storm, the beginning of the end, Roman book by Mark Duncan, history book about how rich elites weaponized issues for political gains. Well, let me... Actually, I won't write that down. I'll just add it to my Amazon reading list. How about that? The Amazon reading list is growing in length day by day. So Storm Before the Storm by Mr. Duncan. There we go. End of the Roman Era. I'm not going to purchase it, but I do have 15 books in my reading list at the moment. Don Alexander on the PayPal says, cheers and thanks for all the analysis. You're one of my top 3 go-tos. The Duran and Brian Beletic. Okay, thank you, Alexander, mate. I appreciate that. Lockie says, Willie, thank you for everything you do. You're an inspirational soul. Thank you, brother. I massively appreciate that. So thank you, Zach, as well for the book recommendation. Has UAE launched any retaliation? No. But this is something that we could see, we could definitely see the UAE, Saudi, etc., starting to launch retaliation. So this is what I've been talking about. The US is considering relocation of air defense and other assets from South Korea to the Middle East amid the ongoing conflict. Patriot, THAAD, as well as surveillance reconnaissance assets like MQ-9 Reaper permanently stationed at the Kunsan Air Base. Again, it could be an opportunity. I don't think that they will be taken, but again, you understand that it could be an opportunity. And this is what many have said, though, around speculation around Taiwan, is there's never going to be the perfect time. You're just going to have better and worse times. But no time is going to ever be perfect. Right, I just need to copy this because I want to send something in a private chat to someone. Right, so that is big news. It does also mean that they are concerned about the amount of air defense they actually brought to the region. YouTube keeps blocking my post, but DD Politics posted a cost tracker website. Okay, Kenyan Scales. Where did he post it on his thing? So I'm guessing cost tracker is for the amount of equipment lost and spent. I'm guessing for this operation. I'll see on his Telegram. Hegseth has blasted hesitation from European leaders around Iran. So yeah, Hegseth is blasting the Europeans for hesitation for war here. I wonder why. The Europeans have like no air defense. They couldn't even get 30 interceptors together for Ukraine. It says, do you think Trump will get impeached for the operation, considering he may lose the House and Senate this fall? I would be shocked if Trump maintains the House and Senate in the midterms. But again, I don't think he'll be impeached. Again, I don't actually think I don't think a change in those will actually have that much impact as people think. Someone did ask, Shawnee, on the Buy Me a Coffee, big talk around the air defense stuff. Any ammunition state, any idea on the ammo state for CRAM? I know lots of local militia are using smaller munitions that takes a lot of rounds to take out one bomb. Of course, something like CRAM at thousands of rounds per minute uses a lot of ammo. I apologize, but I have no idea about the actual ammo state for CRAM. But I do know a similar-ish system was the German Gepard Spag, the self-propelled gun, that Germany had to like reopen factories and go through like old bloody files to find the ability to remake Gepard ammunition. So again, there is only so much ammo for these systems. Right, let me keep scrolling. But this, yeah, that movement. If America does move a THAAD, that tells us a lot about the state of the war. Huge, actually, because that is moving a strategic level, semi-permanent asset. Like I know they're maneuverable, but it's not that maneuverable. That tells us a lot about how the op is going if they choose to do it. If it is beyond just, mixed reporting. Israel has ordered an evacuation of 50 towns across southern Lebanon, stating they will attack Hezbollah infrastructure in the near future. There's now 100 evacuated settlements in Lebanon. Emilio makes a good point. He goes, Germany is running its furnace using Russian energy packaged as Indian. Yeah, literally. It's people always say like, oh no, the energy coming is Indian. You're like, yeah, but the particles that you're burning here, they originated in Russia. It's just going through and paying a premium from Indian refining. Right, just checking. Someone says, I don't think ammo, 20 mil, will be an issue for CRAM, Phalanx, Seawiz. I don't know. I don't know enough about the ammo for those, the ammo states. But one thing we have seen over the past 4 years in the war in Ukraine is that we had not even close enough ammunition, if anything. Mr. Shortsub says, let's donate to buy Willie a new car chat sponsored by YouTube. No, don't do that. I appreciate the offer, Mr. Short Stuff, but don't do that. It's fine. JD Vance, why are you building an enrichment facility 70 feet underground? It's a lot further than 70 feet. And why are you enriching to a level way beyond civilian enrichment and only useful if you're going to build a nuclear bomb? A lot of the enrichment too was deterrence. That's why, Vance, was you enriched this saying, we will do it to try and stop attacks like this, as well as, no one believes this, but there is high enrichment for medical grade too. And these are a lot deeper than 70 feet. There's still a lot of people suggesting, and these are some very, very intelligent people, known people, who have said the ability to actually take out some of these facilities is not really possible through some conventional systems. That some of these under slate rock of way deep, it's going to be difficult. And the thing is now, if these nuclear facilities don't get taken out and obliterated, see, I don't know what, like, this is the thing with Vance and Trump, is you're talking about these facilities. You said that they had been obliterated. You said they'd been obliterated. And you said that any talk otherwise was fake news propaganda. And now you are back to this WMD. So what is it? Did you lie back then or not? So that is, of course, a huge part that people, I think, are missing. But if these aren't destroyed now, you can guarantee that the new leaders, same regime, new leaders in Iran, if they remain, their first goal will actually be to build a bomb. Joshy said, does Australia maintain Patriot and THAAD stockpile? We do have a lot of air defence capability. I do not believe that we have THAAD. But someone may correct me on that. So further, US President Donald Trump determined is he didn't want to just keep the country safe from an Iranian nuclear weapon for 3 or 4 years of second term. He wanted to make sure Iran could never have a nuclear weapon. He saw the Iranian regime was weakened. He knew they were committed to getting the brink of a nuclear weapon and decided to take action because he felt it was necessary in order to protect the nation's security. Again, wasn't it all destroyed? And if it was destroyed and Iran has built these facilities again and the ability to do so in 6 months, well, it has a more powerful nuclear apparatus than any other country in the world. And remember the justification for killing scientists. Remember in the 12-Day War, the justification for killing scientists was we need to remove those with the knowledge how to enrich uranium in their head. So we need to kill scientists to do this. Remember that was the justification for doing so. Cameron says, thoughts of escalation, odds of US land invasion. I put the odds of US land invasion at low. But I see without it, the chances of a overall victory is also low. If their original operational requirements still fit, which is a complete regime shift, which appears by Rubio to already be a goalpost movement to no, it's about missiles and nuclear facilities and navy. DJ Jordan has donated and said the HSV, which is Holden Specialty Vehicles Fund. Thank you, brother. If only Holden didn't go down the gurgler. What a catastrophe. My current vibes I'm feeling the MN is that they're worried about MN and neighbouring states' National Guard troops deployed to the area. We're also sick of the administration that hope we lose. MN? We're worried about MN and the neighbouring states' National Guard being Minnesota? Minneapolis? Flying Bob, thank you for your donation. But there is real domestic unrest in the US at the moment, absolutely. Someone said oil price has spiked. Well, I do have a tab open on oil price, so we can show you. This is live updating at the oil price here. So we did see a spike on the day of, and it hasn't then recovered back down. So we're seeing it $79.4. This is for Brent crude. And if we zoom out a year, you'll get an idea of the height actually of this. Zoom out 5 years, you'll see that it's still low compared to the previous 5 years. But it is increasing up. Like it's really at the levels we saw end of 24 sort of levels. And it is on its way up. So we will keep tracking that, as that has huge implications. It has huge implications for the countries in this region, which are the oil giants. And they prioritize money over anything else. Dewey Saint says, I'm no Hegseth fan, but he should be getting stuck into us. The UK's air defence is purely shocking. God knows how we would have managed a peer-to-peer conflict without the US. Yeah, well, he should. And America should be getting stuck into then partners, like European partners, going, where is your air defence? And Europeans and Australians and everyone should be going, hang on, we have been spending taxpayer monies of trillions of dollars over the decades, and we ran out of missiles, air defence, and shells in a couple of weeks. Where did all our money go? Like, everyone assumed that the Europeans had enough weapon systems to go to war with a peer-to-peer conflict. We saw a relatively minor war and ran out. There needs to be questions of where the fuck did all that money go? David Frito, worst night of my life. Thank you for what you do. I've watched you for years and appreciate your videos. No one supports the war here. The only thing doing well is my oil stocks. Have they hit Aramco more? Well, I hope you are doing well, mate. We go through hard times, but it's only ever temporary. Thanks for watching for years. It's difficult to get an idea on the actual support, but it does appear highly unpopular and will grow more and more unpopular if you start seeing food, Bowser price, etc. rise. And people go, what about, how does food rise? Well, you got to remember that if fuel costs more money, transport costs more money, shipping costs more money, etc., 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 it goes down the line onto the consumer. And at the end of the day, most average people, that's the sort of thing they care about. there's that. As far as Armco, I'm not too sure. Young Dill says US going to run out of, Willie saying US is going to run out of missiles, like saying Russia's going to run out in 22. I didn't say that at all about America. I didn't say that. You are trying to misconstrue what I said. I said the Europeans are out of air defense missiles on a whole. And that is a truth. Same Storm Shadow, Scalp, got fuck all of them. If any left, they can only build a few. And I'm quoting Secretary of State Rubio to do with air defense capability and building of them versus offensive systems. So, yeah, cop that. Israeli fighter jets currently over Beirut. Airstrikes carried out in the south. Nick on the PayPal says, long time no watch, Willie. Hope all's well, mate. Keeping on. Thank you, brother. Willie, it's been 26 minutes. You need to flip your laundry. I'm listening out for the beep. Thank you very much, Kielgon. Of everyone who knows, I've got a lot of laundry going at the moment. I'll listen for the beep. It should be any minute now. But I did completely forget about it. Europe gas price up 38%. Where's the best spot? Would trading economics have a gas price market? Here we go. Natural gas, commodity, natural gas. Where's the best place to look at this? UK gas. Holy dooly. UK gas is looking good. Check out that. Natural gas UK. Right. I will do this one, and then I just heard my laundry beep, and then I'll be back with you in a second. David said, mate, I'm very, very sorry to hear. My girlfriend told me that she tragically had a miscarriage. We have a little girl already, but it's hard to have kids past 30. I appreciate you being real instead of propaganda. Can we do a ground invasion given FPV drones? Yeah, look, a ground invasion can happen with FPV drones, but it does increase the cost of this dramatically. I spoke about this on the Duran recently, that given FPV drones, if we tried to do Afghanistan again, our cost would be significantly larger, and that needs to be a huge consideration. Mate, very sorry to hear the terrible news. My thoughts are with you and your partner. MI Grappling says Bloomberg has the numbers that you need. Right, I'll go and check that in a second. I'm just going to go hang out the remainder of the laundry that I've got on. I'll be back in a minute. Righto, we're back. Final load of washing is on. Other load of washing has been put out. The natural gas, 40% increase that we're looking at. Brian Weeks, thank you on the PayPal, brother. Thank you for your genuine analysis. Thank you, mate. Appreciate that. All right. So, who has laundry? They're voting right now. Blah, 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 blah. Let's read this. Someone says, no insulting in chat or I'll have to end stream Willie. What? Anyway, looking at this heating oil. So you can get a bit of an idea from this. No, I don't want notifications. That these markets have increased dramatically. Someone said Bloomberg, German gas, 34%, UK gas, 40%, gas, oil, increasing massively. Gold, silver, huge increases. 40% so far. Yeah, that's an important one too. That is 40% so far. This could, of course, keep going. So you do know that, gas, this is a key component for a state's ability to manufacture, for energy, for heating. Very, very important. And if you've just seen a 50% rise, this is exactly what I'm talking about with the international pressure of the price spike. Of course, these were already significantly more expensive due to the Russian invasion in Ukraine, and this will skyrocket them even further. Why? Because of supply and demand. Someone said that Trump said he hasn't ruled out ground forces in Iran. I haven't yet seen that. Although Hegseth last night did say that anything is in the realm of opportunities. But of course, they're not going to say that it's not too, because if they do blatantly just be like, that's not happening, it does give Iran a lot of information too to what they are and are not expecting. Ship insurance is skyrocketing. Lloyd's and others are pulling their coverage of any ship in the Red Sea. Not surprising. And of course, what this does is this is one of the reasons here too is if ships aren't going to move through then the Strait of Hormuz, we see down around Yemen, Houthis, Red Sea, Suez Canal region. We do know that Russia and China, they are working a lot to try and open up that North Sea route through the Arctic, and this does make that significantly more attractive. Of course, high gas price is Australian companies will make money. Australians will make nothing off it. Australians pay more on tax on beer than we do off one of the largest gas exporters in the world, which is just insane. Be interested to see how this moves many Australian companies, because it could have a positive move on some of those. Let me have a look. What ticker should I look up? What is the big Australian gas company? And I'll look up what the movement's been so far on the markets for that. Willie, it's worth noting if oil passes 100 USD a barrel, it begins to have significant negative impact on the global economy, and Trump might be pushed to ceasefire if that happens. And Deacon, you're absolutely right. And that is what we've said, is then it have significant impact, and other the country, will start being like, hey, this needs to end. And also, if oil gets to that sort of price, a country like Russia, who can pipeline oil areas, is going to make money hand over fist. So Woodside, yeah, okay, Santos, Woodside, right, let me look. Woodside Energy Group, ASX, up 0.8%, so not much a shift today, but it'd be interesting to see how these gas tickers move. They've had a very good year, Woodside. Very good year, actually. What are your guesses? If you were to guess right now what oil will be at in... Let's take some guesses. What do you think oil and gas are going to reach in a week? Because this war's been under 3 days now. Let's see what happens. Someone says Putin needs 70 plus for his war machine. No, he doesn't. Putin, the economic budgeting in Russia relies on an oil price on Urals crude of around, I think it was 56, and then it got lowered again. But no, it doesn't rely anywhere near $70. People are saying 80. It's already at, well, it's at 79 a barrel for Brent crude. Some say 120. Some are saying around 100. So, people, yeah, we're already at, if we round, we're at 80. People saying 120 is crazy. I think unlikely. You got to remember too, they price in speculation also. So if they're speculated it's going to get worse, then that'll lift as well. Lindsey Graham is complaining that Europe is not showing enough support. Again, I don't see how anyone could ever vote Lindsey Graham in. Oil price website's predicting a 150. Ethan Coasted said this actually hurts Ukraine if it drags on. Yes, it does. Absolutely it does. We've got to remember too, so the main things I see affecting Ukraine in this is firstly, air defense. Secondly, Russia price per barrel of oil is going to increase, but also there's a lot of eyes off Ukraine. Like even I'm not making videos on Ukraine at the moment. We're focusing on this, and that lowers overall support, as well as resource reallocation. Remember that the CIA, NSA, all of this only has so many resources, and they're allocating a shitload of this into the Middle East, and therefore there's only a finite amount, meaning a lot of it is going to move away from Ukraine. But I will be doing Ukraine updates over the next days also. I will keep up to date with some of this. Gasoline in Vegas went to $3.20 a gallon here. You're speaking to me in Chinese, mate. I've no idea how much $3.20 a gallon is in an actual measurable way. What is a liter? People saying gold's going crazy. Bombs dropping hard in Lebanon right now. Yeah, I have seen AMK. He's sharing this at the moment. smoke rising over Beirut from Israeli airstrikes. Sirens in the Golan Heights, possible launches from Lebanon. Okay, drones possibly from Lebanon likely entering the Golan Heights as well. That's where I had that run-in with the drone. That drone that flew like right past me was in there. All right. Right. I think that we've done for the last 2 hours a pretty solid update on what's shifting and moving so far. I think this is some of the biggest news if this happens, because that just gives us a bit of an indication of the future and current state. Yeah, so Upper Galilee, Golan Heights, Kiryat Shmona Way, multiple drone and rocket launches from Lebanon into northern Israel currently. So this region here. There's Kiryat Shmona region through to here. There's indications here at the moment. So if you're wondering, so when I was in Kiryat Shmona down in here for a couple of weeks, where I ran into that drone was approximately here where my cursor is. See this road loops back around where I found that little runoff that gave good observation down into this like basic gully was right where my cursor is here, looking in this direction out here. And that drone came basically down this gully here and then actually struck over about here. Right. Legends, look, what do you think about calling it there for the day and coming back a little bit later on? I think that might work. Call it there so I don't get tired. I'll go get a coffee, go do some exercise, go to the gym, and then we'll come back a little bit later on. Nick Edit is getting banned for spamming. I'd user, there you go. Right, let's do that. We will do that. We'll go away. I've got 90 minutes until I have a podcast that I'm filming, which will be uploaded at some point a little bit later on. But it'll be all about this, but a more formal chat rather than just live BS. So we're going to do that. Legends, thank you again. Thanks for all those who took part in the super chats, the PayPals, etc. Never need to, but I really appreciate it. Look after yourselves. Have a great day, and I'll speak to you a bit later on tonight.